Imagine, like, just for a second, you're sitting across from a hostage negotiator.
Right. Highly stressful situation.
Exactly. And they have maybe, I don't know, 3 seconds to completely de-escalate an active crisis.
Yeah, the clock is absolutely ticking.
So do you honestly think they're sitting there worrying about having this robust, eloquent vocabulary?
Definitely not.
Right. Like, do you think they're trying to structure this perfect, persuasive monologue to wow the person on the other side of the door?
No, I mean, that would be a disaster.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
They're doing something much quieter and, honestly, infinitely more powerful.
Yeah, they are.
They are using what is basically a weaponized form of silence. I mean, they're listening.
They're using a highly tactical system.
Yes. And today, that's our mission. We are opening up the playbook on exactly how they do that, really unpacking what elite communicators call the C2 listener's toolkit.
And we should probably define that right out of the gate.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Because, C2 is this term that gets thrown around a lot in military and executive circles.
Usually it stands for command and control, right?
Exactly. But in the context of this specific toolkit, C2 represents the absolute highest tier of conversational mastery.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So it's not about commanding the other person. That's a huge misconception.
So what are you controlling then?
It is about commanding the flow of the interaction itself.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. And having this absolute rigorous control over your own reactive impulses.
That makes a lot of sense.
It's the true mastery of active listening, which, as we'll get into, is fundamentally different from the passive biological act of just hearing sound waves hit your eardrums.
Right, because if you ask anyone on the street what makes a great communicator, they will almost certainly tell you it's about, outbound transmission.
Yeah, the speaking part.
Exactly. It's the historical speech. It's the flawless pitch in the boardroom. Like, we idolize the monologue.
We really do.
But today's mission for this deep dive is to completely flip that script. We are going to look at the other half of the equation. The half that is actually doing the heavy lifting in any profound human interaction.
It's the invisible work.
Yes. And the skills we are unpacking today are the exact frameworks used by those hostage negotiators.
And elite therapists, too.
Oh, totally. Therapists untangling deep psychological knots, and by the kind of leaders who can, walk into a fractured room and instantly align a team.
It's a superpower.
It really is.
Yeah.
We are going to explore how receiving information, decoding it, and responding strategically can completely alter the reality of a conversation.
It's a total paradigm shift, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah, because when you master these frameworks, you start being just a participant in a conversation.
What do you become instead?
You become the architect of it.
Oh, I like that. The architect.
Right. And to understand how a C2 communicator builds that architecture, we first have to look at the foundational materials.
Okay, lay it out for us.
So if you study these elite communicators, you'll see they map human listening onto basically a 4-gear transmission.
Like driving a manual car.
Exactly. There are 4 distinct levels of listening. But before we can get into the high-performance gears, we have to take a hard look at the low gears.
And frankly, a somewhat uncomfortable look at where most of us are idling every single day.
Yeah, it's a bit of a reality check.
Okay, let's unpack this, because looking at level 1, I felt entirely called out.
I think everyone does the first time they see it.
It's just the default factory setting for human beings. So in this framework, level 1 is called downloading.
Downloading, yes.
And it is the absolute most basic, low-resolution level of human interaction.
That's a great way to put it.
Like, when you are stuck in level 1, you are not actually listening to the other person.
Not at all.
You're listening strictly to confirm what you already know.
It is a completely closed loop.
A closed loop, yeah.
You are basically listening for information that fits perfectly into your existing opinions.
Right.
Your pre-existing biases and your established judgments.
It's pure confirmation bias.
Exactly. If we look at the internal monologue of someone in level 1, they aren't thinking, wow, what a fascinating perspective that challenges my worldview.
No, they definitely aren't thinking that.
Right. Their internal monologue is essentially saying, yep, I knew it. Or, that is exactly what I always say.
They're just waiting for their turn to speak, really.
Basically, you are merely scanning the audio environment for validation.
It's literally the human brain operating exactly like a social media algorithm.
Oh, that is a perfect metaphor.
Right. Because you know how those algorithms are designed to just aggressively feed you videos and posts that perfectly align with what you already believe.
Yeah, so you never leave the app.
Exactly. So you never have to feel the discomfort of being challenged.
Yeah.
Level 1 listening is running that exact same algorithm, but internally.
It's an internal echo chamber.
Yes. You are aggressively filtering the person sitting right in front of you.
Yeah.
You are accepting the data points that fit your existing narrative.
Yeah.
And immediately discarding everything else as irrelevant or just flat out wrong.
And we really have to dig into the neuroscience of why we do this.
Please do, because I need an excuse for why I do this.
Well, why is the social media algorithm our brain's factory setting?
All right.
It comes down to basic biological energy conservation.
Oh, interesting.
Your brain is a ridiculously energy-intensive organ. I mean, it makes up maybe 2% of your body weight, but it burns roughly 20% of your daily calories.
Oh, 20%. Just sitting there.
Just running the baseline systems.
Yeah.
So processing truly new information, especially information that challenges a deeply held belief, requires a massive spike in cognitive energy.
Because you actually have to think about it.
Exactly. It creates physical, measurable friction in the brain.
Annulling is just easier.
It's highly energy efficient. It is comfortable because it reinforces your worldview without asking your brain to burn the glucose required to do actual mental work.
Oh.
It feels safe. And frankly, it's biologically cheap.
Okay, but just like you have to actively go into your app settings, clear your history, and intentionally follow people you disagree with to break a digital algorithm, you have to do the same thing here.
You have to force it, yeah.
You have to actively force your brain's level 1 algorithm to pause.
Which is hard.
Super hard.
Yeah.
But that cognitive friction you feel when someone says something that totally contradicts your assumptions,
Yeah.
that friction is the algorithm breaking. And that is exactly how you know you are finally shifting gears and moving up to level 2.
Precisely. You hit the nail on the head. Level 2 is defined as factual listening.
Okay, factual listening.
And this is a massive evolutionary step up from downloading.
Also,
Because when you force that shift to level 2, you are actually turning off the validation filter and absorbing net new data.
so you're actually taking in reality now.
Yes. You are paying close attention to facts, and most importantly, you are actively listening for what is different from what you already know.
You're hunting for the delta.
Exactly. You are hunting for the delta between their reality and yours.
So the internal monologue changes completely here.
It has to.
Instead of the smug, I knew it, you are now genuinely thinking, oh, that's an interesting data point.
Right.
Or like, I actually didn't know that timeline.
Yeah, curiosity kicks in.
Yeah. So if level 1 is the echo chamber of a social media algorithm, level 2 is like opening up an encyclopedia.
I like that.
It is incredibly useful. It is densely packed with objective new data, but, and this is a huge caveat, it is entirely emotionally cold.
Completely cold.
You aren't building a human connection with the author of the encyclopedia, right? You are just extracting their facts.
It's the equivalent of being a stellar student in a massive university lecture hall.
Oh, that's a good way to picture it.
You are diligently gathering the information, you are taking precise mental notes, you are successfully expanding your knowledge base, but there is a profound emotional distance between you and the speaker.
Because it's just data.
Exactly. You are focused on the object, not the subject.
But let me push back on this for a second, because I think there's a trope here in making level 2 sound like a failure of communication.
Okay, let's hear it.
Like, is it inherently bad to be at level 2?
Well,
Because if I'm in a high-stakes environment, let's say I'm in an ER, and the trauma surgeon is giving me an update on a patient, I don't necessarily want to bond with them emotionally in that exact second.
no, you definitely don't.
Right. I just need the clinical facts. Or if I'm talking to my accountant about a massive tax liability, I just need the numbers.
Absolutely.
So when does this highly efficient encyclopedia-style factual listening actually become a barrier?
That's a crucial distinction to make. Level 2 is not inherently bad.
Okay.
In fact, it is absolutely vital for operational survival and functional execution.
Like the ER example.
Exactly.
All right.
As you said, if a pilot is talking to air traffic control, they need pure, unadulterated level 2 factual listening.
Right. Emotion would just get in the way.
Emotion in that channel is a total distraction. But level 2 becomes a massive barrier when you mistakenly believe that gathering facts is the same thing as forging human connection.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It becomes toxic when you try to apply an encyclopedic mindset to a situation that desperately requires emotional intelligence.
Can you give me a concrete example of that breaking down in real time? Like, what does that actually look like?
Sure. Imagine a scenario where a key employee comes into your office.
Okay.
They are visibly stressed. Perhaps they are on the verge of burning out, and they say, I am totally overwhelmed by this new project timeline.
Oh man, we've all been there.
Right. Now, if you respond with pure level 2 factual listening, you are going to treat them like a broken machine that just needs a diagnostic check.
Yikes.
We'll say, okay, let's look at the timeline. You have milestone A on Tuesday, milestone B on Thursday. If we reallocate resources from project C, we can balance the load.
Which sounds helpful on paper.
Exactly. You have successfully solved the math problem. You have the facts. But you have completely lost the human being.
Wow. Yeah, because you completely ignored the overwhelmed part of their statement and just attacked the timeline part.
Yep.
To them, you come across as clinical, cold, and entirely dismissive of their actual lived experience in that moment.
Exactly. You gathered the data points of their distress without actually acknowledging the distress itself.
That is so common in corporate environments.
It is everywhere. And that is where level 2 hits its absolute ceiling.
Yeah.
You simply cannot optimize human relationships with a spreadsheet mentality.
I can't.
Which brings us to the necessary pivot. How do we cross that bridge?
Right. How do we get out of the spreadsheet?
How do we move from gathering cold facts to engaging with the actual human machinery?
This is where we shift the transmission into level 3.
Level 3, yes.
Empathetic listening. And this requires a fundamental rewiring of where you are pointing your attention.
A total shift in focus.
Right. You are no longer just focusing on the date, the facts, the schedule, the timeline. You're shifting your entire focal point to the how.
How they're saying it?
Exactly. How are they delivering this information? How are they feeling while they say it?
At level 3, the conversational dynamic totally transforms.
What are you looking for?
You are actively standing for a completely different set of cues. You have to start paying acute attention to their tone of voice.
Okay. Tone.
Their micro-expressions, their body language, and critically, their hesitations.
I really want to drill down on those hesitations because we often think of silence or pauses in a conversation as just dead air.
We do, yeah. We try to fill it.
But in this C2 framework, those hesitations are treated like massive neon signs.
Because they usually are. Think about the mechanics of how we communicate.
Okay.
As adults, we are highly trained in curating our vocabulary.
Oh, definitely.
We know the quote-unquote right and safe words to use in a corporate environment or a polite social setting.
We know how to play the game.
Right. We are very good at masking our true thoughts behind professional jargon. But our autonomic nervous system, our tone, the subtle tightening of the jaw, the shift in eye contact, and specifically that slight agonizing pause before we answer a difficult question, those biological responses are infinitely harder to control.
So when you are operating at level 3, you are essentially listening to the spaces between the words.
Precisely. Because a hesitation often reveals much more truth, much more apprehension, or a much deeper underlying emotion than the heavily sanitized vocabulary they eventually choose to deploy.
That makes total sense.
If you ask someone, hey, are you okay with this new direction? And they pause for a full second, look down, and then say, yes, it makes strategic sense.
Ah, I see.
Level 2 factual listening just hears a yes.
Right. Factually, they agreed.
But level 3 empathetic listening hears the hesitation, sees the downward glance, and registers that this person is actually deeply conflicted.
Which means your internal monologue has to completely transform again.
It does.
You aren't thinking, oh, I didn't know that fact. Your internal monologue at level 3 becomes an active investigation of their emotional state.
Yeah.
You are asking yourself, I wonder what this situation is really like for them.
Exactly.
Or, it sounds like this specific issue is triggering a lot of anxiety for him. You are actively trying to step into their reality.
You're trying to see the world through their eyes.
But this brings up a huge practical challenge.
Okay, what is it?
If I am sitting across from someone and I am actively trying to decode their tone and analyze their posture and time their hesitations, how do I prevent myself from getting so incredibly distracted by analyzing the quote-unquote performance of their communication that I completely miss the actual point they're trying to make?
It is a really delicate balancing act, and it requires a state of being fully present that most people rarely achieve.
It sounds exhausting, honestly.
Well, the risk you're describing, getting distracted by the performance, happens when we treat body language analysis like a cheap parlor trick.
Oh, right. Like a party trick.
It's what happens when someone reads one book on body language and suddenly they're staring at your crossed arms like they're trying to crack a safe.
Just looking for a tell in a poker game.
Exactly, and it feels super unnatural.
It feels predatory. You feel like you're being dissected rather than actually listened to.
Exactly. True empathetic listening at level 3 is not about clinically diagnosing their gestures.
What is it about then?
The framework refers to it as softening your focus.
Softening your focus.
You aren't staring at them with the intense, narrow focus of a sniper looking through a scope. You are taking in the entire landscape of their presence.
That sounds much more relaxed.
It is. You are allowing their emotional state to naturally resonate with your own. It is about emotional permeability.
Permeability.
You let their anxiety or their excitement or their hesitation momentarily influence your own nervous system so you can truly understand their vantage point.
Softening the focus. I really love that imagery. It's like taking off the blinders.
Yes.
So empathy builds this incredible, profound connection. You are now fully attuned to their reality.
You're with them.
But the C2 toolkit doesn't stop there. And this is where my mind was completely blown.
Oh, get ready.
We've moved from understanding the baseline facts to understanding the emotional reality of the present moment. So where do we go from there?
We arrive at the pinnacle. Level 4, generative listening.
Okay, generative listening.
This is the absolute master level of human interaction.
Hold on, I have to push back here before we even define it.
Okay, push back.
Because when I first read the definition of level 4, it sounded incredibly woo-woo.
Fair.
Right? It sounded like something you would hear at a meditation retreat in Sedona, not a strategy you would use in a high-stakes boardroom negotiation.
It can sound a bit out there.
Because the prompt for this level is literally, what is the universe trying to say through this person? Or what new possibility could we create together?
Yep, those are the prompts.
So if I am negotiating a hostile corporate takeover, or I'm a hostage negotiator, how does suspending my ego and asking what the universe is saying not just result in me getting absolutely crushed by the person across the table?
It's a very fair critique, and I completely understand why you'd ask that. The language can sound ethereal if you don't ground it in practical mechanics.
So ground it for me.
Let's strip away the woo-woo and look at the brutal pragmatism of generative listening.
I like brutal pragmatism.
Empathy, level 3, is about connecting with what is happening right now in the present.
Right.
Generative listening, level 4, is about listening for what is not being said, and specifically listening for a future potential that does not yet exist.
Okay, give me a concrete scenario where level 4 actually wins the day. Like outside of a yoga studio.
Okay, let's look at a classic high-stakes business scenario.
Great.
Think about the historic merger between Disney and Pixar.
Oh, that's a big one?
Huge. You had two massive entities with deeply entrenched cultures, massive egos, and completely different ways of operating.
Very different.
If the negotiators only used level 2 factual listening, they would have just argued over valuation models and org charts until the deal collapsed under the weight of logical disagreements.
Just fighting over spreadsheets.
Exactly. And if they only used level 3 empathetic listening, they would have deeply understood each other's fears and anxieties about culture clash, but they still wouldn't have a structural solution.
So they would just be two highly empathetic, deeply understanding groups of people who entirely failed to make a deal.
Exactly.
Oh.
Level 4 generative listening is what happens when leaders in that room stop defending their existing positions, which is level 1.
Right.
Stop just gathering ammunition, level 2, and stop just validating feelings, level 3.
So what do?
They step back and say, based on the unique friction between Disney's legacy distribution and Pixar's revolutionary technology, what entirely new operational model can we invent right now that neither of us brought into this room?
Oh, wow.
Generative listening is the search for the third option.
Third option.
It is the realization that the friction between two opposing ideas is actually the raw material for a breakthrough.
Oh, that makes so much sense. It's not about yielding to the universe in a passive way. It's about utilizing the interaction itself as a creative engine.
Exactly. You're building something new.
It actually makes me think of playing jazz music at a truly elite level.
Oh, that's a great analogy.
Right. If you are playing in a world-class jazz quartet, you aren't just listening to the notes the saxophone player is hitting so you can accurately copy them.
No, that would be level 2.
Right, just repeating facts. And you aren't just listening to feel the emotion of his solo.
That's level 3.
Exactly. You are listening to the rhythm, the emotional intensity, and specifically the spaces between the notes to figure out what totally new harmonic structure you can create together on the fly.
Yes.
You are listening to generate a sound that has literally never existed before in human history, and neither of you could have written it down beforehand.
That is a flawless parallel. The master jazz musician is entirely present, listening not for what is, but for what is possible.
What is possible?
In organizational psychology, this is known as the emerging conversation.
Emerging conversation.
Yeah. When two people are deeply attuned at level 4, the dialogue ceases to be an exchange of pre-existing thoughts.
It's not just a ping pong match anymore.
No, it becomes a generative space. The listening itself acts as a catalyst that manufactures brand new thoughts in real time.
The listening itself is the catalyst.
Right.
That is incredibly powerful. And it brings us to a massive paradigm shift for how we actually train ourselves to do this.
Yes, the training is key.
Because when you look at how C2 operatives train these neurological pathways, they don't just try to magically jump straight to level 4.
You can't. It's impossible.
Right. They build awareness first. So the foundational training mental model for you listening to this deep dive right now is to spend the next week simply asking yourself one question in every interaction.
Just one question.
Which gear am I in? Which level am I listening at?
Because the awareness is the intervention.
What do you mean by that?
If you are in a tense meeting and you realize, wow, I am entirely in level 1 right now. I am just waiting for this guy to stop talking so I can prove him wrong.
We all do it.
We do. But just the act of identifying that gear allows you to shift out of it.
You catch yourself.
You force the cognitive friction. You say, okay, let me shift to level 2. What is one objective fact he is stating that I don't actually know?
And then you step it up again.
Right. Then you shift to level 3. How is his posture changing as he defends this point? You have to manually operate the transmission before it becomes automatic.
Okay, so we've thoroughly mapped out the internal architecture.
We have.
We have our 4 gears. We understand the cognitive load, the empathy, the generative potential, but all of this internal processing is absolutely useless if we don't translate it into external action.
It's just theory otherwise.
Exactly.
Yeah.
How does the gear you are in actually dictate the words that come out of your mouth next?
This is where it gets tactical.
Because the framework transitions here into directing the flow of the conversation, specifically through a highly intentional hierarchy of follow-up questions.
And this is where theory meets brutal tactical execution.
Let's get into it.
A C2 listener does not ask random questions. They don't just say whatever pops into their head.
No winging it.
No winging it. They use different categories of questions strategically, deploying the exact right tool to achieve a specific outcome based on the level of listening they are currently employing.
Let's start at the foundational tactical level then. We have clarifying questions.
Yes.
And these map directly onto level 2, factual listening.
Correct. The function of a clarifying question is purely mechanical.
Mechanical.
It is designed to ensure strict factual alignment and to prevent disastrous miscommunications.
Just getting the facts straight.
Right. The framework gives very standard examples. So to ensure we are aligned, the absolute final deadline for the prototype is Friday at 5 p.m.
Or could you spell the surname of that contact for me?
Exactly.
They are basic, almost mundane, but they are operationally essential.
You have to have them.
They prove to the speaker that you are actively processing the data stream. But to your earlier point about the limits of level 2, they do absolutely nothing to build the human relationship.
Nothing at all. Which is precisely why a master communicator intentionally shifts up to rapport building questions.
And those map to level 3.
Yes, level 3, empathetic listening. The tactical objective here completely changes. You are no longer trying to verify the spreadsheet.
What are you doing instead?
You are actively trying to construct psychological safety and build trust.
The contrast provided in the framework here is so sharp, it immediately changed how I view my own workplace interactions.
It's eye-opening.
Let's play this out. Say a colleague walks up to your desk and says, "Man, I was up until 3 a.m. last night finishing this quarterly report."
Okay.
If you respond with a level 2 factual clarifying question, you would say something like, "Okay, so is the report finalized and uploaded to the server?"
Which is an entirely logical, outcome-focused response.
Right.
But it completely ignores the human bid for connection embedded in their statement.
Because they just told you they were up till 3 a.m.
Yeah, they want you to acknowledge that.
But if you shift gears and deploy a level 3 rapport building question, it changes the entire molecular structure of the interaction.
Completely.
You would say, "Wow, 3 a.m. You must be absolutely exhausted. How are you holding up today?"
Or that sounds like an incredibly stressful push. What kept you going through the night?
Yes. So let's unpack the deep psychology of why that small 5-second linguistic shift matters so profoundly.
It's huge. It all comes back to a core biological human need, Psychological safety.
We hear that term a lot, but what does it really mean here?
Well, we are tribal animals. Our nervous systems are wired to constantly scan our environment to determine if we are valued by the tribe.
Am I safe here?
Exactly.
Huh.
When you acknowledge the human being behind the labor by asking what kept you going, instead of just demanding the output, is it uploaded?
No.
You fundamentally alter the power dynamics.
Wow.
You signal to their nervous system that they are seen, that their well-being is visible and valued by you.
It deactivates their threat response.
Yeah. Exactly. And in any complex environment, whether it's a hyper-competitive corporate office, a surgical ward, or a marriage, psychological safety is the absolute prerequisite for honesty.
Honesty requires safety.
Yes. Without it, people will only ever give you the safest, most highly sanitized, defensively curated version of the truth.
They'll just tell you what you want to hear.
Exactly. They will hide mistakes, they will bury bad news, and they will never, ever take a creative risk.
Okay, I totally track the psychology there. But let me play devil's advocate again, because I can hear the aggressive, hard-charging executives rolling their eyes right now.
Oh, I hear them too.
Right. If I'm managing a fast-paced, high-burn-rate startup and we're sprinting toward a launch, doesn't pausing every 5 minutes to ask rapport-building questions about everyone's feelings inherently slow down execution?
That's the classic pushback.
Isn't there a point where empathy becomes a bottleneck for efficiency?
Yeah.
Like, how do you actually balance building psychological safety with the brutal necessity of just getting things done?
It is the most common fear among high-level leaders, and it is entirely backward.
Backward.
Yes. The great paradox of leadership is that skipping empathy in the name of quote-unquote efficiency is exactly what creates catastrophic system-wide inefficiencies down the road.
Walk me through that.
Let's look at your startup example. If your employee says they were up until 3 a.m. and you only ask, is it uploaded, you might get a yes today.
Right. Task accomplished.
You saved yourself 5 seconds of conversation. You were very efficient.
Okay.
But because you systematically ignored their exhaustion and treated them purely as a mechanism for output, that employee begins to silently disengage.
Oh.
Over the next 3 weeks, they burn out. They start making critical, unforced errors on the next reporting cycle.
Because they're exhausted and don't care anymore.
Exactly. Or worse, they quietly interview with a competitor and resign, taking all their institutional knowledge with them.
Oh, man. And now your efficiency has cost you 6 months of recruiting, hiring, and retraining a replacement.
Precisely. Building rapport is not a soft HR-mandated distraction from the real work.
It's the work itself.
It is the required maintenance of the human machinery necessary to execute the work.
Wow.
It takes 5 extra seconds to say, you must be exhausted, but that 5-second investment buys you months of fierce loyalty, higher discretionary effort, and the kind of clear, honest communication that prevents million-dollar mistakes.
The required maintenance of the human machinery. That is a brilliant way to frame it.
It reframes everything.
It's not soft, it's structural integrity. Okay, so we have the foundational questions that clarify facts, and we have the connecting questions that build the psychological safety net.
Now we level up.
Now we elevate to the real heavy hitters. This is the absolute C2 masterclass section of the framework, probing questions.
Yes. This is where we take the theory of level 4 generative listening and turn it into a tactical weapon.
A weapon for creating the future, right?
Exactly. Think about the progression. Clarifying questions organize the past. Rapport-building questions acknowledge the present emotional state.
Okay.
Probing questions are explicitly designed to invent the future.
Invent the future.
Their entire architectural purpose is to force the speaker to think more deeply than they were previously capable of.
To challenge themselves.
Yes, to challenge their own hidden assumptions and to uncover the root why behind their surface level what.
And this is where the neuroscience gets totally fascinating. The framework has a massive non-negotiable rule about how you construct these questions.
It's a deal-breaker rule.
Right. If you want to uncover the why, you have to be incredibly careful with the actual word why.
You really do.
The rule is, probing questions should almost always start with what or how, and you must aggressively avoid starting a sentence with why.
What's fascinating here is the psychology behind this. To understand why the word why is so destructive, we have to look at the brain's threat detection center.
The amygdala.
The amygdala, yes. Think about your entire life experience, stretching all the way back to early childhood.
Okay, thinking.
When did the authority figures in your life deploy the word why?
Oh, I see where this is going.
Why did you break that vase? Why is your room a disaster?
Why did you fail this math test?
Why did you make that decision?
Oh man, my heart rate just bumped up a little bit just hearing you say those. Immediate defense mechanism engaged.
And that is exactly what happens on a neurobiological level.
Wow.
Human beings are deeply conditioned to perceive the word why as a direct, aggressive accusation.
It's almost Pavlovian.
It is. When someone hears, "Why did you do that?" their amygdala literally lights up on a brain scan. It interprets the question as a predator's attack, a direct threat to their status or safety.
So the body reacts.
The brain instantly floods the body with cortisol, the stress hormone, and the person shifts immediately into a defensive posture.
It locked down.
They feel compelled to justify their existence, defend their actions, or deflect blame.
And the moment they go defensive, generative listening is totally dead.
Completely dead.
They aren't thinking creatively anymore. They're just trying to survive the conversation.
Exactly. You have triggered their survival brain. But the words what and how operate on a fundamentally different neurobiological pathway.
How so?
They bypass the amygdala's threat detection and instead engage the prefrontal cortex.
It does what?
It's the part of the brain responsible for logic, executive function, and collaborative puzzle solving.
It's an incredible linguistic hack. Like, using why makes you sound like a hostile prosecutor putting them on the witness stand, shining a spotlight in their eyes.
Right, interrogation style.
But asking what or how makes you their co-investigator.
I love that.
You are standing shoulder to shoulder with them, looking at the problem on a whiteboard, trying to crack the case together.
That is the exact dynamic shift. You move the problem from being an internal flaw in their character to an external puzzle that you are both trying to solve.
Let's look at the conversion metrics the framework provides for this, because it's a brilliant exercise.
Let's do it.
Instead of asking the accusatory, why did you do that? You engage the prefrontal cortex by translating it into, what was your thought process behind that specific decision?
So much better.
Instead of looking at a failure and asking, why is this such a problem for you? You pivot and ask, what makes this specific situation so challenging?
It completely lowers the temperature.
Or how would you define the ideal outcome here?
Let's roleplay the specific leadership scenario provided in the tactical guide, because it perfectly illustrates the sheer power of a C2 probe.
Okay, set the scene.
Imagine you are leading a major division and one of your most promising team members comes into your office.
All right.
They sit down, looking totally defeated, and say, "I'm not sure I can take the lead on this new product launch. I just don't have enough experience for a rollout this big."
Okay, if I am operating on autopilot, my immediate instinct, and I think the instinct of 99% of empathetic managers, is to try and be supportive and reassuring.
Of course you want to help.
I would immediately jump in and say, oh, don't worry about it. You are going to be absolutely great. You've got great instincts. I believe in you. I'm sure you'll be fine.
Which is completely well-intentioned.
I'm trying to be a good boss.
You are trying to be a good boss. But as the C2 framework meticulously points out, you just completely shut down the conversation.
I did.
Yes. You offered a shallow platitude that functionally invalidated their very real, very terrifying concern.
Oh, wow. I didn't even think about it like that.
You didn't help them process their doubt. You just ordered them to stop feeling it.
Yeah. Wow.
And as a result, they leave your office feeling just as incompetent, but now they feel entirely alone with their doubt because you refuse to engage with it.
Right. I basically just hit the mute button on their anxiety.
Exactly.
I haven't actually helped them build the capacity to solve the problem. I've just told them to ignore it. So how does a C2 communicator handle that exact same opening line?
A C2 listener recognizes this as a prime opportunity for generative listening. They deploy a probing question, starting with what or how. Instead of a platitude, you look at them and ask, what specific technical skills do you believe are necessary for this launch that you feel you haven't yet mastered?
Oh, that makes it concrete.
Or, even more powerfully, you use a generative if scenario to force their brain past the roadblock.
Like what?
You say, if you did feel completely confident right now, what would you be doing differently?
Oh, man. If you did feel confident, what would be different? That is a masterful question.
The tactical brilliance of these probing questions is that you are actively refusing to do the thinking for them.
You aren't bailing them out.
You are not handing them a prepackaged answer.
Yeah.
By asking what specific skills, you force their brain to move from a vague, overwhelming sense of panic,
Big May can't do this feeling.
right, to a granular, logical assessment of the problem. Like, well, I guess I'm specifically worried about managing the press briefing.
It shrinks the monster.
Exactly. You empower the speaker to architect their own solution.
You are quite literally forcing their brain to build a new neurological pathway from panic to problem solving.
You are rewiring them in real time.
Which brings us to a massive mental model for you to adopt this week. The real training here is learning to catch yourself in the millisecond before you give advice.
That is so hard to do.
It is. When someone comes to you with a problem, a fear, or a doubt, you are going to feel an overwhelming, almost biological urge to jump in and play the savior.
You want to fix it.
You will want to give them the answer. You have to learn to suppress that reflex.
Just bite your tongue.
Give them a what or how probing question instead, and watch them explore the architecture of their own mind.
It is a remarkable, almost magical thing to witness when you land a true C2 probing question.
What does it look like?
You will see it happen in real time. The person will just stop talking.
They just freeze.
They will physically pause. Often you will see their eyes track upward or to the side as they literally access a different hemisphere of their brain.
They're actually computing.
Yes. And then they will say something like, huh. That's a really good question. I actually hadn't thought about it from that angle before.
That exact phrase, I hadn't thought about it like that. That is the audible sound of generative listening successfully working.
It is the best sound in the world.
Just like you hold the key to a door in their mind that they didn't even know existed.
Perfectly said.
Okay, so we've covered the internal architecture with the 4 levels of listening. We've covered the strategic verbal frameworks with the types of questions and the neuroscience of why versus what.
Now for the on-the-ground tactics.
Yes, now we have to get incredibly tactical. Because grand strategy is absolutely useless without flawless execution on the ground.
Completely useless.
The final section of this C2 framework outlines 3 highly specific physical techniques you can execute in your very next conversation.
Tomorrow morning.
Exactly.
But
How do we physically manifest all of this high-level psychology in a moment-to-moment interaction?
these 3 techniques are not just communication tips. They are the ingrained physical habits of a master listener.
Their muscle memory.
Yes, they are the physical mechanics of respect and cognitive control.
Technique 1 is conceptually incredibly simple, but practically, it is probably the hardest one for me personally to execute.
Oh, it's brutal.
It's the pause. The mandate here is that you must wait 2 to 3 full, agonizing seconds after someone finishes speaking before you are allowed to open your mouth.
3 seconds of dead silence in a conversation feels like an absolute eternity to most human beings.
It really does. It feels so awkward.
We are terrified of silence. We view it as a failure of rapport. But the C2 framework outlines 3 distinct, highly tactical benefits to weaponizing this pause.
Okay, what's the first one?
First, it physically and undeniably demonstrates that you are actually considering the weight of what they just said, rather than just treating their speaking time as an annoying delay while you wait to reload and fire your next point.
Which goes right back to breaking that level 1 downloading algorithm. You can't be downloading if you are actively forcing a pause.
Exactly. It forces cognitive friction. Second, and this is where the magic happens, the pause gives the speaker the necessary runway to add a final thought they might have been defensively holding back.
Oh, that makes sense.
In most interactions, people will give you the safe, heavily sanitized version of their thought first, just to test the waters.
Right, the polite version.
If you jump in immediately, that is all you ever get. But if you hold the silence, the psychological pressure of that silence often compels them to fill it with the deeper, more vulnerable, and far more accurate truth.
I have absolutely seen that happen. You just wait, and suddenly they sigh and say, but honestly, the real reason I'm upset is, and boom, you are finally at the core issue.
Yes. The silence pulls the truth to the surface. And the third benefit is entirely about your own authority in the room.
How does silence give you authority?
When you hold a 3-second pause and then you finally do speak, whatever words come out of your mouth instantly sound infinitely more deliberate, more thoughtful, and carry significantly more gravitas.
It's the power of intentional silence. It frames your words as valuable.
Exactly.
Okay. Technique 2 takes that deliberate pacing and adds verbal structure. paraphrasing and summarizing.
This is a game changer.
The framework calls this the ultimate proof of active listening and uses a phrase that I absolutely love: acting as a mirror of clarity.
The tactical example given is saying something like, so if I am tracking with you, it sounds like your primary concern is the Q3 budget constraints, but your secondary underlying concern is how this impacts the timeline for the engineering team. Is that an accurate summary?
That is so clean.
This is vastly different from just blindly parroting their exact words back to them, which is incredibly annoying.
Oh yeah, nobody likes a parrot.
Right. You are taking their messy, tangential, perhaps highly emotional explanation, and you are filtering it, organizing it, and reflecting it back to them in a concise, structured way.
You are acting as a mirror of clarity for their own chaotic thoughts.
Precisely. And if we look at the psychological mechanics here, we have to ask why this simple act of summarizing works so effectively to build trust.
Why does it?
It all comes down to cognitive load theory.
Okay. Cognitive load.
When a human being is trying to explain a complex problem, or worse, a complex emotional state, they are carrying a massive cognitive burden.
They're struggling to articulate it.
They're furiously expending energy fighting to be understood. When you step in and perfectly succinctly summarize their core point, you completely remove that heavy cognitive load from their shoulders.
You do the lifting for them.
The psychological relief they experience in that moment is immense. They feel deeply, fundamentally, and safely understood.
You can almost see their posture change. They finally exhale.
Literally, they just breathe.
Which leads right into the final technique.
Yeah.
Technique 3, which takes that summarizing and mirroring and applies it directly to the emotional layer.
Labeling emotions.
Exactly.
This is a highly advanced level 3 empathetic listening tool. This is the act of gently, tentatively putting a verbal name to the emotional state you are sensing in the room.
Naming the emotion.
You say something like, it seems like you're feeling incredibly frustrated with the lack of cross-departmental progress.
Or it sounds like you're feeling a bit ambivalent about taking on this new role.
Exactly.
The framework notes a fascinating dual outcome here. If your label is accurate, if you hit the nail on the head, they experience that massive wave of relief we just talked about.
Yeah, they feel seen.
They say, yes, exactly. I am so frustrated. It validates their internal reality and creates an instant, unbreakable bond of trust.
It's powerful.
But the framework also claims that even if your label is completely wrong, it is still a highly successful tactic. That blew my mind.
It is counterintuitive, but it's true. Because a gentle, incorrect label immediately opens the door for them to correct the record without conflict.
How does that work?
If you say, it seems like you're angry about the budget, and they respond, no, I'm not angry at all. I'm just deeply anxious that we are going to miss the shipping window. You have still successfully navigated through the conversational fog to the absolute truth of their emotional state.
You still got to the core issue.
The label, even when wrong, acts as a sonar ping that locates the real issue.
Okay, but I have to ask about the inherent danger here.
There's definitely a danger.
Right, if I am talking to my spouse or a highly volatile coworker and I say, it sounds like you're really angry right now.
Oh boy.
And they aren't angry, they're just, let's say, highly passionate about the topic. Haven't I just deeply offended them?
Probably.
Haven't I basically just poured gasoline on the fire? How do you label an emotion without sounding like a condescending armchair psychologist who is just diagnosing them?
That is the critical nuance that separates an amateur from a C2 master. And it is exactly why the specific language provided in the framework is so absolutely vital.
The phrasing matters.
Notice the precise phrasing of the tools. It seems like you're feeling, or it sounds like, you are absolutely not making a declarative, factual statement.
You're not saying it is a fact.
You are never saying you are angry. Saying you are angry is a direct accusation. It backs them into a corner and forces them to defend their emotional state.
Right, is an attack.
Yes, but saying it seems like, or it looks like, is offering a tentative, respectful observation.
It's softer.
It provides them with a psychological out. It allows them to reject the label entirely without feeling like they have to fight you to do it. It is an invitation to explore their feelings, not a clinical diagnosis of their flaws.
That makes all the difference in the world. It seems like is an invitation.
Yeah.
You are as a judgment.
Exactly.
And this brings us to how you actually start building these specific skills. When we look at how to train this, you don't try to memorize all these frameworks and deploy them all at once in your next staff meeting.
No, that would be a disaster.
You use progressive overload, just like building a physical muscle. A great training model is to isolate one variable at a time.
One day at a time.
Maybe spend your entire Monday doing nothing but aggressively weaponizing the 3-second pause. Don't worry about probing questions or labeling. Just force the silence.
Just get comfortable with the quiet.
Then on Tuesday, focus exclusively on being a mirror of clarity, summarizing every complex point you hear. And on Wednesday, practice the tentative art of labeling emotions with it seems like.
Exactly. These are complex neurological pathways, and they need to be broken down, isolated, and rebuilt through deliberate, conscious practice.
You can't just read about it.
You cannot master the C2 toolkit by simply understanding the psychology of it intellectually. You have to physically deploy it in the friction of real human interaction.
So what does this all mean when we put the pieces together?
It's a big shift.
If we zoom out and look at the entire architecture of the C2 Listener's Toolkit, from the 4 gears of listening, to the neuroscience of probing questions, to the tactical deployment of silence and mirroring, we are looking at a massive, fundamental shift in human orientation.
We really are.
It is the arduous journey from simply waiting for your turn to talk to becoming genuinely, insatiably curious about the architecture of the mind of the person sitting across from you.
It is the profound realization that the two halves of human communication are not created equal.
They really aren't.
Speaking eloquently, commanding a room, structuring a flawless, persuasive argument, those skills make you impressive. People will absolutely applaud you for them.
But listening generatively, listening for the hidden possibilities, building deep psychological safety through perfectly timed probing questions, and using silence to pull the truth out of people that makes you indispensable.
It is the infinitely rarer skill, and without a shadow of a doubt, it is the more powerful one. It is the silent bedrock of true leadership, the foundation of profound human connection, and ultimately, it is the mechanism of wisdom. Because, quite simply, you cannot learn a single thing while your own mouth is open.
You cannot learn a single thing while your own mouth is open. I absolutely love that.
It's the truth.
Now, we have spent this entire deep dive talking about how to deploy these 4 levels of listening and these tactical follow-up questions outwardly.
With other people.
We've talked about how to use them on your team, on your boss, on your partner. But I want to leave you, the listener, with a final, somewhat provocative thought to ponder as you navigate your week.
Okay, let's hear it.
Consider this. How are you listening to your own internal dialogue?
Oh, wow.
When you are alone and you talk to yourself about your ambitious goals or your recent failures or your daily stress, or are you just downloading old comfortable criticisms?
Are you at level 1 with yourself?
Exactly. Are you just running a level 1 algorithm on yourself, confirming your own biases about your limitations?
That is a deep question.
What would actually happen if you forced a shift? What would happen if you applied level 4 generative listening and C2 probing questions to the brutal, honest conversations you have in the quiet of your own head?
That is a phenomenal and frankly intimidating frontier to explore.
Right.
The internal application of the toolkit might be the most powerful use case of all.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Take this toolkit, isolate the variables, practice the silence, and go out there and connect authentically. We'll see you next time.